Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the One Nation of Gamers Summer Circuit EU Qualifier number 7. We're about to jump into the second semifinal match of the day between Logan and Impact. And Chucky, I think you're pretty familiar with these players.
Yeah, both of these players have qualified for things before. Nothing new to them. Again, we have quite a few kind of known names in this tournament.
Mhm.
Logan qualified for like the Video Game House Cup in the past, I believe multiple times. Very known for his Druid play, among other things. He says he's played over 10,000 ranked games of Druids, so kind of all in on that deck. And both these players pretty friendly with each other, so we might see a little bit of antics on webcams or whatnot during the games.
Yeah, that is an absurd amount of games.
It
I'm gonna
is. I
I'm gonna
haven't
put it
even
in
played that many games.
exactly. I'll put it into perspective. I think like a little over 4,000 ranked victories in Hearthstone. Um, So that means I probably have a bit above a 50% win rate, so maybe close to 8,000 games total across all classes. 10,000 games with Druid alone.
That guy
Whew.
likes his Druid.
Yeah. Imagine how many times he's made people punch their monitor because he's drawn Wild Growth into Innervate Thorsan
Oh,
in his
God.
lifetime.
Oh, God. I didn't even think about it that way.
At least hundreds by now.
What a
But
sick man.
yeah, Impact on the other hand, this guy was he's been around the scene for a long time. He was known as the Open Tournament King for a long time. I think he still is at one point. I'm not sure if it's still true. He had the most Open Tournament victories out of any player in Hearthstone, at not even in
I think
his region, but in the world.
I think also way back when I was on Coast with him and Luffy, Luffy actually was like had won more NESL tournaments than anyone else, like by far.
Yeah, yeah.
So they were running those tournaments. We were all on King of the Hill for multiple weeks. Impact was
Oh
on for
yes.
3 weeks. I was on for 3 weeks. Luffy was on for 2 weeks. Like, yeah, open tournaments. I mean, they've been around for a long time, and players like Impact have been in them for a long time. So
Yeah.
nothing new. Just another day of the grind. And Impact, I believe, recently kind of like posted on his Twitter that he had kind of like slacked off in the early half of the year for BlizzCon points, but he was going to go for a miracle, and he has maybe I think like 30 points, which isn't that close to qualifying. He's probably going to need around 90 or 100, but he said he'd be playing in every single point tournament he could possibly play in, and he'd be tryharding ladder, and he was going to go for a miracle sneak into the top 23. In
Yeah.
this, we are now in the last month, so maybe he's going to make that come true. This tournament is a point tournament, so definitely one of those things that he needs to do well in.
Yeah, not only are the opens giving points up to 10, I believe it's up to 10. Yes, 10 for first place in the opens, so he has a chance to get those for the rest of the opens. Also, if he qualifies for PAX, 100 for first place. It is a premier tournament, or premier major. I can't remember the exact specific term for it, but so it does offer 100 points for a victory. 100 points, if he won that, it would bring him from 30 to 130, which would put him from like top 40.
Top nothing basically. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
top
not
nothing to top
outside of
15.
23. It doesn't matter where you're at. You're playing in the LCQ.
Yeah,
So for players like him, it's not really the pride of saying I was at this position. It's they want the rewards, and 24th is as good as last. So
yeah. Logan
def,
is a pretty intimidating guy over here.
yeah, he
Board gaming.
definitely enjoys bragging about his beard. I've heard.
Hmm.
So thinks he has the best beard in Hearthstone.
He's got quite a bit of competition.
He does.
That's
There's
admirable.
admirable. Yeah, definitely a huge beard.
Yeah. And Noxious is
Oh yeah,
getting there.
Noxious. Noxious has a nice beard. Hmm.
It is. Yeah. Casted with him the other day, and it was very
And
distracting.
while we can't see Logan's hand, we can see his plays, and that's an interesting one, TJ. Coin Deathlord.
Death Lord is
Your
gem.
turn.
All right. Well, other than that, it looks to be a standard mid-range shaman. Now, Deathlord, I think, okay, is a pretty good card against Patron because a lot of their cards are,
You don't want to pull them out of your deck.
yeah, exactly. You want to play them. The only card that you could say, well, I want to pull it out of my deck randomly is probably Emperor Thorsan because most of the time, getting that out there and saving the 6 mana is good. But
Acolyte
imagine
is
if
okay.
yeah, Acolyte's okay. But imagine if you pull out something like a Grim Patron,
Yeah,
or you pull out
not
something
what
like
you
a
want.
Frothing Berserker, and your opponent has removal in their hand. All of a sudden, you've given away one of your big win conditions for free, and you had to use cards to get through the Death Lord in the first place. So it can really be a problematic card, and we can see that while
Yeah.
the Death Lord might give Impact some armor, it's going to take a while to get through.
This is kind of a type of deck, the Shaman deck, that I really like the concept of it. Shaman, I've noticed, kind of in my time playing, I used to play a lot of mid-range Shaman. I haven't recently, because I feel like it's not that great in the meta. But it's a deck that you can grind your opponent out, and it can be played as more of a control deck than mid-range. Especially, like, its main issue has been that it doesn't have much healing. Anti-Keelbot helped that a bit. But it's got all of the tools you really need. It's got hard removal in the form of Hex. It's got card draw with Mana Tide. It's got silences. It's got taunts and stuff to control the mid game with like Fire Elemental. And its hero power is one of the best late game. Once you get to that point where you're setting up infinite taunt totems, it can actually just lock your opponent out of the game.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the main things I was noticing was you could go to Fatigue with Shaman and win a lot of the time. Now, Shaman doesn't have any tools to actually fatigue your opponent, so Fatigue Shaman kind of died in its inception, unfortunately. But as Blizzard introduces more and more cards, one of the new cards today, I don't know if you saw it, was...
Healing Wave.
Yeah, Healing Wave can heal you for up to 14, and it's a Shaman class card, so just crazy stuff is coming. And the more stuff they kind of add to aid this strategy, it's pretty close to being a legitimate strategy of stalling your opponent out as Shaman with healing effects and taunt effects. And I think that's something like what Logan's trying to do here.
Yeah. Well, we'll see how it is going to work out for him. Right now, he seems to be controlling the board relatively well. This Mana Tide Totem is going to do work because he didn't have a way to get to the Death Lord, so how is he going to find a way to get through the Death Lord and get to the Mana Tide?
Here we go. He's going to get through that Death Lord.
Uh-oh.
But he can't get through the Mana Tide, like you said, so...
What's he going to pull?
And what this pulls could be good, it could be bad. Acolyte of Pain's pretty okay. Yeah, Logan threw out that second Earthshock very, very liberally. Just threw it out on the unstable ghoul, which he probably didn't need to, but he felt, okay, the odds he has that second Acolyte are pretty low. But unfortunately for him, Impact got it, and now Impact might get 3 draws off this Acolyte.
Which is pretty brutal, especially considering that Impact does have Emperor Thorsan, so the more cards he draws and gets closer to combo pieces, the better that Emperor is going to be. And he already has a couple good pieces. He's just waiting on... Oh, no.
Oh, man.
That is brutal. So now he realizes that he's just going to probably be able to just play Emperor right now and draw one more card here. Well, I don't think he even needs the Cruel Tap. Oh, well, if he wants to take out the Mana Tide.
The Mana Tide, yeah. And he knows both Earthshocks are gone, so it's pretty much guaranteed to get that third draw as well.
Yeah.
I agree with this, and he can't really get much value off that Battle Rage because obviously his hero hasn't taken damage thanks to Armor Smith giving him too much armor.
Yeah.
And we actually see a Blackwing Corruptor. So dragons are in this Shaman deck.
Okay, this is really interesting, especially since, keep in mind, these players got through the whole Open yesterday with these lists.
Yes,
so
this is a proven deck. Like it's not like he just threw this out today and it's like, oh, maybe it'll work. This won in every single one of his matches.
Yeah, Logan beat Phone Tap in the Open yesterday. He also beat Asmodai, so some notable victories there from him.
I have a list for this deck. As soon as I saw the dragon, the Blackwing Corruptor, Just Saiyan was playing this deck. I'm not sure if he created it, but that's kind of where I know of it from. And so it's got basically everything we've seen, the double Death Lords. It has a big game hunter, one Sinjin, one Defender of Argus, and the dragons are double Azure Drake, Alexstrasza, and Ysera, if Logan hasn't made any changes to that.
Yeah.
So we're going to see some really interesting stuff coming out of this deck.
Well, that is...
This is going to be a lot of
scary.
cards.
And a lot of damage, because he pulled Frothing Berserker from the Death Lord.
Yeah.
So he's going to be able to clear here, plus, like you said, draw...
He's just going face. He wants that extra damage.
Yeah, why not? He's got Execute, or yeah, he does have Execute. He's going to be able to draw through, like, his whole deck.
There's no way this is lethal, right?
No, because he only has one Frothing Berserker, and he can't charge these patrons.
But it's really close.
Is it? I don't think it's even close. Oh, he's got second Whirlwind.
So he's gonna get the Battle Rage off. I think he might hold the second Whirlwind.
Oh, you can Warsaw Commander, then Whirlwind, and charge the...
Oh, wait, okay.
This might be it.
No, he's not gonna get that many patrons, though.
Oh, yeah, because he's going to kill one off. It might have been better to Inner Rage his 1 health patron, and then he'd get 2 charge patrons.
Yeah.
From the Whirlwind.
Maybe.
I might... is it lethal anyway?
Wait.
It is! Wow.
It is, yep. And that's gonna do it. So...
Yeah.
Screw all the dragon talk. My bad for that. Game's over. Patron.
Well, Death Lords, we talked about how sometimes it can be bad to have a Frothing Berserker come out of a Death Lord because it gives your opponent the initiative to deal with it. Sometimes it's good. Yep. And Impact manages to find the lethal there. And I think he knew that there was a high likelihood that with a 6-card Battle Rage or a 5-card Battle Rage that he'd be able to find a way to draw into lethal.
Yeah, I wasn't really even considering the Warsong Commander plus Whirlwind because he also needed the Inner Rage, and it's like...
Yeah.
All right, you got it.
Yeah, I mean, he could have even, like I said, Inner Rage his 1 health patron and then Whirlwind because he would have gotten 2 extra patrons to be able to charge and attack with.
Yeah, sometimes as a caster, as a viewer, even as the player playing the patron deck, you can't help but just kind of, as the player, you're just like, yeah, I'm just going to see what happens. Let's do as much stuff and as much damage as possible, and sometimes it gets you there. I mean, I don't even know. Impact sequenced it pretty well, knowing that drawing that War Song, he could get those extra patrons, but I think that turn started out as, hey, this is a lot of damage.
And this is a lot of cards.
Yeah, exactly. It's a low risk, very, very high reward.
I'm going to draw through my whole deck here.
Right.
Oh, wait.
It's kind of like as the old Miracle Rogue when you could go for that double prep, like Cold Bloods, and just hit their face for a bunch, and you accidentally draw lethal. You're like, huh, I guess that's it.
That was a fun game. All right, well, Impact is going to throw out the Rogue, and Rogue has been... I love when players play Rogue through opens. It's a tough deck to play, but I think it has a lot of strong matchups. And Impact plays with double Violet Teacher, so very creature heavy. I'm curious to see how many like Paladin Shredders he runs, whether or not he runs South Sea Deckhand, but I do like Rogue now, where a lot of players do not. I guess it's always that old mindset where Rogue players always think that Rogue is really strong.
Yeah.
But I do think it's strong.
Okay. Well, we'll have to see.
He's like, okay.
Okay, bro.
I'll just mark you down.
Yeah, you're a Rogue player, I can tell. But yeah, I don't know. I haven't played too much Rogue recently. I mean, when Aggro Rogue was a thing, man, I was jamming that so much so that I got Golden Rogue. But nowadays it is kind of back to that personal choice. It's not widely considered to be a top 3 deck. I think a lot of players might consider it like the 4th best. Going into kind of like the team formats, like Archon Team League, you do see Rogue pop up a lot as the 4th or 5th deck, along with Mage, I would say. Those are probably the 2 classes most people consider to be number 4 and number 5 on the list if you had to pick.
Yeah.
Whereas classes like Shaman, kind of lower on that list for most people.
Impact is the only player in the 8 players that have made the top 4 for EU and NA that's playing Rogue. So that's probably an indicator of the representation of Rogue in Opens, at least. You mentioned like Archon Team League, where it's the 4th, but in Opens, a lot of players consider it like 5th, maybe even 6th, because there's like Warlock, Druid, Hunter, Warrior, and Mage. Yep. A lot of times are ahead of it. Shaman now is starting to get a lot of popularity. The Aggro Shaman, the Aggro Mech Shaman in Opens. So,
and you only get to pick 3. I mean, in the team leagues, you get to pick 6, so it's a lot easier to decide, okay, we do want Rogue in our lineup, but when you only get 3, it's a lot harder to make a cut of one of those really great classes for Rogue.
Indeed. And I mean, these are going to be hard to get through. Rogues usually have a pretty decent matchup against Shaman. I mean, it's not a matchup that you see very often because they have a lot of like tempo tools against the Mech Shaman. They have a lot of ways to remove all the early stuff. And against mid-range Shaman, a lot of times they can just have one big Blade Flurry in the mid-game and completely stop the Shaman's momentum. But this deck is a little bit different. I'm not quite sure how this is going to match up.
Yeah, Impact's setting up for a big Blade Flurry. Could be very punished by Harrison Jones, but there is none for
Does
Logan.
Deck run it? He's been very greedy with his weapons because last game he equipped a Death Spite, just a fresh Death Spite when he had 4 mana on like a turn 6.
In the Just Saying list, there is no Harrison Jones. So maybe that's something Impact is aware of, yeah.
Yeah, and these players do have... Sometimes they can have the benefit of information because a lot of times the deck lists of the players in these opens get around a little bit as players like talk about their experience with matchups that they had, and so Impact might have a little bit of insight into what's in Logan's deck based off of like what other players have been saying, or if he like spectated or something one of the matches if one of his friends had it. So
I would assume this is going to be an Edwin turn. And he's going to make it a 6/6 to play around Big Game Hunter, which is in this deck. Might seem surprising to some people, but it's kind of a play where you're thinking, okay, 6/6 is big enough. I don't need an 8/8, and the risk versus the reward is pretty big.
Yeah. Ooh. Well, Urshok off the top.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Won't kill it, but he'll be able to neutralize a lot of this board.
Mm-hmm.
Especially knowing that 1 oil's out of the way and he's only on 6 mana. Leaving around a minion's not that big of a deal at this stage in the game. It's mostly later in the game when you're so worried about that.
Yeah. It's
awkward.
Yeah, he's going to float a mana unless he picks up a prep. Prep Phantom Knives would have been okay there because he could have traded in the Edwin, but doesn't pick up anything, and he's taking a lot of damage. That's 17 health.
Yeah, I think Logan is going to go for... He could go face, I suppose. Yeah, he will. I was thinking he could go for a defensive line, but with Alakir in your hand, maybe you want to go more aggressive. I feel like he could have gone for a defensive line, and now he might get punished because of that. Double Phantom Knives with that spell power. Oh, maybe even... with double spell power, he could do this, or he could do SI Agent. He really gets to pick.
Yeah, I like the SI Agent better, even though the... well, actually, Blood Mage Thanos allows you to dagger up. I'm not sure how relevant that is, but it could be, because he's going to get maybe even 3 draws before his next turn, because he's got draw from the Phantom Knives here, which picks up SI Agent. He's going to have his natural draw from next turn, plus he's going to have his Blood Mage Thanos draw most likely, because he's seen an Earthshock, so... maybe mounting a comeback here?
So Logan definitely got really punished for not going with... I also feel like he could have afforded the Flame Tongue here. I've seen both fans. He's seen a Flurry. Mm-hmm. It would kind of set him up in a position to maybe lethal next turn. If all that survived was that Flame Tongue and the Mana Tide, that'd be lethal. Obviously, Impact has a heal bot, but he doesn't know that. Yeah, I feel like Logan could have gone for a much more defensive position this game. Rogue is a deck that, when you're running this many taunts and heals like Logan is, you can take it really slow.
Yeah.
and grind them out.
Run
Of
them
course,
out of damage.
Impact did draw Sprint, so that'd be a much harder plan to kind of get away with when your opponent has Sprint. But
Sparty's gonna Bio Teacher and Sap here.
yeah, and
And
now that's a lot of damage being pushed. So Logan really needs to pick up like a Lightning Storm to couple with that Blood Mage Thalnos. He is getting really close. A Rock Biter. He's actually just a Rock Biter away from winning.
yeah,
So
the list does run Rock Biters.
I mean, I would assume it does. It's just a pretty. It doesn't actually.
So yeah, some of the slower Shaman lists cut Rock Biter because it just doesn't do enough if you don't have like a weapon to couple it with. I mean, it's good removal early on, but
And now
in a way,
Logan.
not really.
Now Logan's like, okay, I'm pretty committed. You're gonna die next turn, but of course, Impact has Healbot, so that's not gonna happen.
Yeah, he's gonna draw here first. Eviscerate. Yeah, it allows him to take out the Fire Elemental, but can he deal with the Death Lord? Yes, he can.
Yeah, he has
Easily.
enough on board.
Yeah. So he's gonna eviscerate the Fire Elemental and has exactly enough damage to push into this, plus smack face and re-dagger up. He's gonna get a card out from the Death Lord as well. Does he even have any creatures left? Oh, he's got a Violet Teacher.
He has at least an Azure Drake.
Yeah.
Okay, there's Violet Teacher, like you said.
I don't think he has an Azure Drake, does he?
Yeah, he hasn't played both.
Oh, this Azure Drake's been on the board for a long time.
Yeah, it's been alive
Wow.
for a while.
I'm not used to Azure Drakes being on the board for more than a couple turns.
Yeah, he might also have that South Sea deckhand.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I guess we haven't seen Second Shredder. So Second Shredder plus double Violet Teacher usually locks out the South Sea deckhand, but
Yeah, and now I feel like Logan's kind of like, man, maybe I should have gone defensive.
yeah, he's thinking all the way back to yesterday morning before the Open even started when he was choosing his decks. Maybe I shouldn't have taken Dragon Shaman. No, I'm just kidding. It's proven to be really good so far.
Yeah, it's not a bad deck, I don't think. This might be a weaker matchup for it, but I also feel like, I suppose that one turn he left the Azure Drake up, I mean, Impact was fortunate to have prep into double fan, but those are things you do need to consider. And obviously, he might have considered that and been like, this is still my best chance to win.
Yeah. And he's going to bring himself back up to 15, but that's still going... Well, actually...
Nah, he's dead. That's,
Oil has...
It's 12 on board and 3 from Oil. He's dead.
Well, okay, yeah.
Yeah, he's
Just with oil damage alone, yeah.
And then he has an SI agent, too. He can literally just play Oil and hit all face. Doesn't even need the combo.
He's going to go for it anyway.
Yeah,
Just for the overkill.
Doesn't matter where it hits, so...
Alright, well, Impact is going to take a 2-0 lead in the series. Now, we saw this happen in the last match as well. And it was with Roger and Play for Fun. And Play for Fun managed to come back after being down 2-0, but we'll see if Logan can do that as well.
Well, Roger did end up taking it anyway. It kind of just happens with Conquests that when you take a 2-0 lead, your opponent has 3 matchups to pick from. So like here, Logan can choose Shaman, Warrior, or Druid against Hunter. His best matchups are probably Warrior, and I don't know how that Shaman fares. It might be okay, but I still feel like, yeah, I don't know, that might be his second best. So you can go Warrior, and then Shaman, and then Druid. So you go best matchup to worst if you want.
Yeah.
So you can start a comeback, but at the end of the day, you have to win with all 3. Right.
Yeah.
He's actually just going to start with Shaman. And it's an interesting Hunter list from Impact. He's running double South Sea Deckhand.
Whoa.
Which is a card I don't like from testing it out. It is another 2-1. And I'm a big fan of 2-1s. However, I feel like 6 is a plentiful amount in the current lists. And so I feel like he probably cut Worgen Infiltrator for this. And in my experience, I've liked Worgen Infiltrator better because South Sea Deckhand presents this kind of paradox when you're playing Hunter. Do you want to hold on to your weapon in case you top deck South Sea Deckhand, or do you want to attack with your weapon in case you top deck another weapon? And so it's like you can't really win. It's counterintuitive to how you want to play the game.
Yeah.
Whereas normally with Hunter, you want to get your weapon charges off ASAP in case you draw more weapons. When you play South Sea Deckhand in the late game, you want to hold on to a weapon in case you top deck South Sea Deckhand.
And it seems like with Worgen Infiltrator, you're almost always guaranteed the 2 damage somewhere. And with South Sea Deckhand, you're not always guaranteed the 2 damage.
Worgen's definitely better in these early turns. So like on turn 1, it's a lot better because it cannot be answered. And in that case, you can't charge out the South Sea anyway, so it's completely irrelevant. And in the late game, South Sea's probably slightly better, but again, it kind of comes back to that issue where then you can't play the things you want to play. Pulls out a Wolf Rider, gets in that 3 damage.
Yeah. This is a pretty great hand for Logan, though, to deal with aggro. He's got double Earthshock plus the Zombie Chow, so...
Yeah. Might be a freezing
though?
trap up. Yeah, not sure. Could be freezing, which would answer pretty well. He's going to leave the Abusive Sergeant behind, decide he'd rather have their shot for something else. And there's that Unleash for impact, so he will have Juggler Unleash later if he wants it. But I feel like Juggler Hero Power is probably the play this turn.
He's thinking of... He does have a secret up, so he's thinking of, does he want to equip the Eagle Horn Bow to give that extra charge from the secret? And if he does he over-equip his Glaive-Zuka to kill the Zombie Chow to protect his secret even more? Or does he go with efficient damage and do this and then equip the Eagle Horn Bow? So it looks like he is going to equip it to get that extra charge off. So being greedy with the weapons again, he can afford to do that because he's pretty confident that Logan does not run Harrison Jones, as we've seen him be greedy in all 3 games with weapons.
Yep. So now Logan's like, well, kind of have to proc this trap. And I feel like...
Explosive.
Oh, man. Worst result for Logan. If he just traded, he'd be in so much better of a spot. Now might have to just pop that Earthshock off.
Yeah. That's kind of rough.
Yeah, there's 3 bow charges there. So it's only really going to get more rough. Looks like he's just going to go for the Juggler Unleash this turn.
Yeah, I mean, this is just a super powerful play. And he's still got that 6 damage over the course of the next 2 turns with the bow. So you look at Logan's hand, he's just got nothing to play. I mean, what is he going to do next turn? Hex a Knife Juggler?
Well, he missed 1 juggle. So he only gets 2 hounds. Gonna put him to 16 though, and I mean, I feel like that's clocking your opponent pretty hard here.
Yeah. He does have to Hex a Knife Juggler. That's... I mean, I guess that's one of the biggest targets that you're going to Hex in this deck. It looks like a really fast Hunter, so maybe has some hybrid elements to it, but... Oh, yeah. And a Quick Shot. Wow.
Gonna get the draw off that Quick Shot. That's
perfect mana as well. I mean, exactly 2 mana left over to Hero Power.
Yeah, I can't really see any way Logan's going to be able to come back from this amount of pressure. It's just way too much. I probably wouldn't trade with that totem. Doesn't make much sense to me. I guess there is Defender Vargas in that deck, but if he totem Defenders, you win anyway. He'd have 6 on board, plus 4 from hand, and he'd need to do 12, so he wouldn't win instantly, but I feel like you're so far ahead that if that's your opponent's best play, like, you're still fine.
Yeah.
And yeah, he's gonna agree with that. Just go face. And Lightning Storm doesn't quite do it, because he won't be able to clear off the Haunted Creepers, so...
He needs Lightning Storm and a Taunt Totem.
Well, Taunt Totem won't do it either. The Abusive Sergeant guarantees that one of those spiders will get through, and that's the extra damage Impact needs.
Yeah.
So that's going to do it.
8.
Impact 3-0.
Does it make you feel proud that your former teammate smorked him down?
Hey, man. Some habits die hard.
Mm-hmm.
He's definitely willing to play those aggro decks. And again, that's something I like to see out of pro players. I mean, you play to win. You know,
Yeah.
innovation can be done with any deck, and it's always nice to see unique stuff. We did even see kind of the South Sea deckhands in there, which is a bit of an innovation. Again, one that I don't personally like too much, but ended up working out in that match and takes it 3-0 with, like you said, he's the only road player out of all 8 players today. So some
Good to
different
see.
stuff in his lineup. And yeah, going to
Yeah.
move on to the finals.
All right, so yeah, he's going to move on to the finals to face Roger, and Logan will move down to the third place match against Play for Fun. So third place match, of course, will be coming up next. These players are playing for a little bit extra GEICO points as well as some money. So $50 on line for those guys and a few GEICO points, which getting towards the end of the season, those GEICO points really, really matter as we're getting towards the qualification for the grand finals at PAX. But we're going to go to a quick commercial break. During the break, guys, make sure you head over to geico.onog.gg, get your GEICO quote, enter in to win your official TSM PC, and read a little bit more about the tournament if you haven't already. And again, a reminder, the final qualifier for NA and EU are tomorrow. So if you want to sign up for those tomorrow, head over to liquidheart.com. On the right side, under upcoming events, you can click the ONOG number 8 for both NA and EU. But once again, guys, a quick break before we jump into the third place match. But the finale will continue for the Summer Circuit qualifier number 7 right after this.